Good morning. How are you doing today? We're at day 3. So, give you all a second to come on. So, how did you do yesterday with yesterday's activity? Get my little things here. They keep wanting to fall out of my ears. How did you do with yesterday's activity of collecting and writing down everything that you ate? And then asking yourself the golden question. Good morning, Drew. How are you? So I was just wanting to check in to see how everyone did with yesterday's activity. What did you find? You can journal about it. You can share with me in some of the comments on this, below this video when we're done with it. So any other things that you want to share, any other ahas, insights that you gathered from that activity, then would love to hear about it. So, just give everyone another minute or so to come on before we dive right in. And I also want to reiterate again the importance of really staying with this, doing the daily activities and watching the videos. There's a lot here to share, a lot to implement, to take in. And so I really encourage you to just dive right in, do the daily activities, and at the end of the week on Friday, for all of you who did each of the activities every day, then I'll be giving you a special surprise, or a special prize. Surprise prize. Say that quickly. So it's worth it to you. It's worth it for yourself to really delve into what I'm sharing with you this week. All right, so today we are talking about how to get rid of the bad critters out of your gut, how to evict them. So we talked yesterday about the importance of nutrition and creating a good environment for the healthy microbiome, the healthy bacteria to live, and that the more we create an environment for them, then it encourages them to populate rather than the more pathogenic, harmful ones. But we also want to do things from time to time, especially if we're just getting started in this process, to really focus on evicting the bad critters out of your gut. So, one of the most common ways that is done, and I'll tell you why it doesn't really work, is, let's say you have an infection or a bacterial overgrowth or something's going on with your gut. What do we typically do in this society, what we've been trained to do? We go to the doctor, they may run a few tests, and then he's going to prescribe something. And that something is an antibiotic that's going to wreak havoc with your gut. Not just we get antibiotics for just about everything. And they're so over-prescribed that now we're seeing the consequences of that in terms of the superbugs that are resistant to antibiotics. And so what is that really telling us? You know, rather than stepping back and say, oh, maybe I ought to really listen to what the situation is communicating to me. No, we instead just push more drugs into the system, push more drugs into the body. And that's just literally adding fuel to the fire. So taking antibiotics is the worst way to get rid of the pathogenic bugs and the critters in our gut that we don't want. Why is that? Because the antibiotics are not selective. They literally will wipe out everything. So if you've ever been on a round of antibiotics and then soon afterwards developed a yeast infection or a urinary tract infection or a vaginal infection, raise your hand, say I. That's very common after having a round of antibiotics because of the effect of what the drug does. It wipes out too much, too indiscriminately. And so that brings up the conversation of what other things can we use then that are natural antibiotics. You know, we've got all kinds of herbs There's garlic and ginger and onions are natural antibiotics. There's all kinds of essential oils that have antibacterial qualities or properties to them that are just as strong and just as effective, or maybe even more so, than the antibiotics, the drugs. So if you've ever had a round of antibiotics, then you could really benefit from doing what we did, talking about what we did yesterday, of really putting a lot of plants and vegetables and fruits into your diet to rebuild. Also have a lot of fermented vegetables, fermented foods in your diet to really restore and rebuild the gut and the microbiome there, as well as what we're going to be talking about today, which is cleansing. Good morning, Paulette. I'm going to just stop here for a second. Christy and Kay and Drew. Who else is here? Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. So when you look at the term antibiotic and probiotic, what that really breaks down to, they're just Latin terms for the word pro-life, probiotic, anti-life, antibiotic. And when you consider how much of our body is really comprised of the microorganisms and bacteria, that starts to take on an entirely new meaning. Because you will never get rid of all of the bacteria in your body. It's impossible. If you did ever achieve that, you would no longer be living. You literally do not live without your microbiome. And so it's to our benefit to create a good, healthy relationship with it, to support it, which in turn then supports our overall health and wellness and longevity. So when we're talking about cleansing, I like to use this analogy that explains it very well. You know, our bodies are part of nature. And so they're made from the materials of nature. And so we can look to nature to see how we can maintain our bodies and our health. So one of the things is this analogy of, if you look at a body of water, let's say a pond out in the woods somewhere, there's not been fresh water flowing into it for a long time. So what happens to it? It starts to grow algae and mold. It has this little film on top. It starts to smell a bit. A lot of the plant life, the fish, the animals, they start leaving because it's not quality water anymore. It's stagnant. It's losing life force. It becomes an anaerobic environment, as we talked about yesterday. It becomes more conducive to pathogenic organisms to thrive. Okay, so the fungus, the smell, the decay starts to happen. However, if you were to run fresh water into that pond of water, what happens? Just think about it. Fresh, clean water comes in. It stirs up a lot of the stuff from the bottom of the pond. However, it eventually washes out all of the decaying material, all of the bacteria, the algae, the molds, the fungus, and pretty soon that body of water is clean again. And then critters can come, animals can come back in, birds, little plants, fish, insects. Life returns to that body of water. Okay? So when we look at our bodies that are 70% water, we can use the same analogy to flush out our own bodies, our own internal waters, so that they are much more life-giving again. So that's what cleansing and detoxing is all about. So just like the pond, when you flush clean water in, all of the garbage just kind of takes care of itself. Yeah, you don't really have to do anything with it. It just goes away. The stink comes up for a while, but then the stink goes away. So when we are doing a cleanse or a flushing of our body internally, it's the same principle. We just allow our body to do what it knows to do to cleanse itself. It will break down inferior and diseased tissue. It will kind of deconstruct and then recycle proteins. So like with cells that are diseased or inferior or old, those are made of proteins, and so the body just deconstructs them and then use the raw materials, the amino acids, to reconstruct new tissue. The body knows what needs to be let go of, and in the process, the sequence in which to let go of things. You'd flush out stuff from the joints, from all of the organs, from the blood, from the liver, from the intestinal tract. So when we understand how the body functions and trust that it knows how to heal itself, it can heal broken bones and a cut and a bruise. Why can't it heal an organ? Why can't it rebuild a liver or an intestinal tract? It knows how to do that. We just have to trust that and give it the raw materials it needs and create a cleansing environment for that to happen. We've been so conditioned to believe that we have to run to the doctor for everything, for every kind of a drug, and that the body can't do certain things that aren't even true. Whereas when we go to return to ancient wisdom of what other cultures know, they all know that the body can heal itself, that the body can regrow tissues. It does every day. So allow that process to happen and create a cleansing, clean environment for it to do so. Okay? So when we're in the process of cleansing, a lot of people don't like to the thought of it because they think it's murderous, it's torture, it's so uncomfortable, it's just not a pleasant experience. It's like, yeah, it's not. Because what you're doing is stirring up all the stuff from the bottom of the pond, so to speak. You're stirring up all the stink so it can get washed away. You can't get rid of it unless you stir it up and allow it a channel to leave. And so when you do cleanses, there's a lot of different types that you can do. And based upon where you're at health-wise, there's some cleanses that are not good for you at this point, maybe further on down the line after you've rebuilt and cleansed your body to where it's stronger. Then you could do different, more aggressive types of cleanses. But if you're just starting out, you can do them in a way that your body can comfortably cleanse, and so that you can still attend to the things in your life that need to be attended to during that time. One of the things that you find when you're cleansing is that emotional stuff will come up. You'll feel cranky, ornery, they have like flu-like symptoms. You may feel a little bit nauseous or more tired. That's just all of the toxins coming up and out to leave. And if you don't understand that, then it's easy for you to shut the whole process down and say, this isn't good for me. When if you just persist with it a little bit longer and maybe slow down the cleansing process, then you will find that your body adjusts, it does what it needs to do, it gets rid of the wastes, and you do feel better on the other end. And the process of doing that eliminates a lot of the pathogenic bacteria, all the critters that are craving for sugar. It moves them out so that there's more space and room for the good bacteria to thrive. Okay? So, how many of you have done a cleanse thus far, up until this point of your life? Anybody? To take a second to say hello. Mia, Debbie, Sharon, hello. Have any of you experienced one? And so if you did, just give me a thumbs up. So this process of cleansing goes hand in hand with nourishing your body. And it's good to do it on a regular basis. A lot of ancient traditional wisdom says to do it with a change of the seasons, like every 3 months. Spring, thanks Mia, a long time ago. Spring and fall are good times to do cleansing. And you don't have to do them long, arduous things. You can do them small or shorter duration and a more gentle cleanse based upon what you've got going on and what your health level is. So when I first did a cleanse, it was before I really understood much about the process. And a friend of mine encouraged me to do it. She had to talk me into it because I had never done it. I didn't know anything about it. And she wanted to do a vegetable or a juice cleanse. And at the time, I didn't have a really good blender. I didn't have a juicer. So I just had, did what I used what I had, which was a semi-okay blender. And I did kind of like a smoothies. I did a lot of vegetables with water, maybe some protein powder in them, and I just whipped them up, and that's what I drank. And so there was still a lot of fiber in them, and they were kind of crunchy because it wasn't a full-on smoothie. But she originally wanted to do a 28-day one, and I was like, oh my God, that's so long. However, I dived in, and I made it for 3 weeks. And about 10 days into it, I was at the gym one day looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, have I lost weight? My gut looks thinner. Like, really? So I had to go weigh myself. And sure enough, I had dropped almost 10 pounds. Not even trying. I was flabbergasted. Because at the time, that was the heaviest I had weighed in my whole life. And I had no idea what would it take to get rid of that weight. And it seemed like I was just on a one-way track of getting more and more heavy. And by the end of that 3rd week, I had dropped 20 pounds. It floored me. And it has stayed off. I've never regained it. And that's been over a decade now. So that really got me onto, wow, there's something to this. And then a few years later, when I was studying nutrition and reading the works of Don Tolman, then he really dived into the wisdom of cleansing and why to do it and what it does and what the body does when it's in a cleansing mode. And it was a light bulb moment for me. So since then, I've done several of them and experimented with a variety of ones and with a variety of lengths of time. And I discovered that there's four phases of a cleanse, especially if you're doing more of a liquid cleanse. So the first phase is like what I call the prep phase. It's 3 or 4 days where you start shifting your diet around, going all into like fruits and vegetables, taking out the meat, the nuts, the excess fat, the garbage, the sugar for sure. So it's prepping it, and that you're going into the cleanse. And then you've got the period of the cleanse, which could be juices and smoothies, like fruit juices, vegetable juices, sometimes salads or an apple if you need a little bit of crunch and a little bit of solid food. You do that for the duration of however long you've decided to do it. Sometimes during that time, people will go on a straight water fast. There's one cleanse that I did where in the middle of that phase, there was about 3 days where I was on straight water, which to get to that point, then you've got to have a certain level of health and have a certain level of experience cleansing. I wouldn't recommend that if you've never done a cleanse at all. So you've got that second phase, which is the cleanse itself. And then you've got 3 or 4 days coming out of that, gently, slowly coming out, reintroducing solid foods, getting back onto more solids. Maybe a couple days later, start introducing grains and legumes again. And then the 4th phase is the maintenance phase. And this is where you implement a higher standard of eating than what you had before the cleanse, and you maintain that for as long as you can. Ideally, you go into it with the intention of, okay, I'm doing this cleanse to rid myself of, a certain level or layer of the sugar addiction or the addiction to to non-healthy food, so that on the other side of that cleanse, you don't go back to it. You know, your body will change and adjust during the cleanse. Your taste buds will become much more sensitized to healthy food, and your appetite can change. At least mine did it from the first one. Of afterwards, I could not eat as much food. I never ate that volume of food again, and it helped maintain the weight that I'm at. So just recognize part of the process is for your body to shift into a healthier state, and then afterwards, after the cleanse, then make sure that you don't undo it by adding in all of the garbage again, because that's the whole point of cleaning your body out, to get rid of the garbage, so that you're not so addicted to the sugar and the other unhealthy foods. Okay? So does that make sense? The 4 phases of cleansing. So types of things that you can use with the cleanse. There's a lot of different fruits and vegetables that you can use in either smoothies or juices. Fruits tend to be cleansers. Vegetables tend to be builders. So you'd want to have some combination of the two of them. When I do a juice cleanse, then I will do primarily a vegetable juice of lots of different greens: chard, kale, zucchini, cucumber, some carrots, some beets. And so that you want it with beets and carrots and fruits. They have more sugar, so you need to offset that with the green vegetables. So I'll do a vegetable juice, and then I'll add in maybe like an apple or a pear or a little bit of carrot or beet to sweeten it. But you don't want to have a juice that's so sweet that it throws your blood sugar off. So you can do juices, you can do a robust salad, or just a solid apple. The fiber in the apple is or any fruit is very helpful just to clean the gut out. Activated charcoal. Have you ever heard of that in the cleanse? That's very helpful for cleansing the intestines and drawing out stuff that's built up on the intestinal wall that creates a good environment for all the pathogenic critters to live. It also helps pull out heavy metals. Diatomaceous earth. Have you guys heard of that? That's just kind of like a clay type. It's a form of clay. Bentonite clay you can also use. But those things are very good at drawing and pulling the parasites, critters, the toxins, heavy metals, some glyphosate out of the gut. And all of that stuff just build up to or contribute to a deterioration of the integrity of the digestive tract. Fibers like flax and psyllium. Psyllium is a very commonly used fiber, but there's other fibers that you can also use. Those are like brooms that sweep and scrub and cleanse and pull the stuff off of the intestinal tract. So you can do a combination of those, of like the charcoal, the diatomaceous earth, the bentonite clay, and the fibers. That's a very effective intestinal cleanse formula that you can use, that I can help you with if you'd like to experiment with that. You also want to make sure that you're staying well hydrated, so lots of good quality herbal teas. Need to get some more headphones. Herbal teas, water. You can put essential oils with your water and herbal teas. You can chop up vegetables like cucumber and put mint leaves, berries, citrus fruits. You can put those in your water to give it a little bit more flavor. But just as you'll want to flush your system really well during the cleanse. Citrus fruits and citrus essential oils are also very helpful. They help cleanse and maintain the pH balance. And another thing that can happen when you're on a cleanse is the body just stirs up a lot of impurities and waste, and send them all out the back door. And so you can experience some constipation during the time of the cleanse, and so you want to make sure that that channel is open. Enemas are really good for that. Colonics, going to a colonic therapist is very helpful for that. One of the things that is really very beneficial for the colon and the liver and gallbladder are coffee enemas. Have you guys heard of that or experimented doing with coffee enemas before? If you have, just give me a thumbs up. You know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, really?" However, if you do it right, and if it's you don't need a strong espresso black coffee by any means. It'll like shock your gut. But a very gentle, mild blend of coffee, of clean, organic coffee and filtered water, that's actually very nourishing for the intestines. There's a lot of nutrients, minerals, antioxidants in a quality coffee bean that is absorbed in through the system in the colon, because the colon is all about absorbing moisture towards the end of the digestive process. And so when the colon has a chance to absorb in all the nutrients from a mild coffee enema, then that's very helpful for that, as well as the coffee will stimulate the gallbladder and the liver to open up and flush its waste. The liver and the gallbladder tend to collect a lot of fatty substance or fats, and so you want to be able to help the liver flush that out so that doesn't get too congested with fats, because that can then create a domino effect of problems somewhere down the line. Okay? So those are some suggestions that you can use. And for those of you who would like to experience it, then just let me know. You know, a lot of the things that I'm explaining to you this week are things that you can do. However, it's hard to do on your own, especially if you're new at it and you don't quite know what you're doing. So that's where a community and some guidance really comes in handy, and it's very beneficial. And so I'll be explaining to you more as the week goes on how you can work with me further to implement some of this stuff that I'm teaching you, of shifting more into a plant-based diet, really looking at your nutrition, asking yourself the golden question that we talked about yesterday, doing some cleanses, what type of cleanse, how to structure it, the length, you know, what foods do you eat, what juices, you know, all those different things. It's an individualized thing that you do. And so when you have some guidance and support and some encouragement, then it makes it a lot easier to do that. So I will be explaining to you how you can do that with me towards the end of the week. Sound good? Give me a thumbs up, give me a like and some hugs and some hearts. So that's for today. Just introducing to you this process importance of cleansing and how that goes miles towards helping you get beyond sugar cravings and stay on the other side of sugar cravings. This is one of the most powerful things you can do to get rid of sugar cravings for good. All right? So thanks for the loves and the likes. So your daily activity today is, I'll write another post like I've done. Tell me if you have done a cleanse already and what you experienced with it. If you haven't, then what I want to hear from you is, from what I've explained today, has that shifted or opened your perception up about what cleansing can do for you, to where you are in a space of, oh, I'd like to experience it. I'd like to try it, see what it does. Okay? So those are my two questions for you. If you've done it, let me know. If you haven't done it, what your take is on it now. All right? So look forward to hearing from your answers. I've really enjoyed reading your answers and comments so far this week. And again, make sure that you stay with it every day. For those of you who do all the activities, I have a special prize for you that I will be telling you about on Friday. All right, so this video will be up for 24 hours. And then right before tomorrow's video, then this one will go away. So you have until then to do the activity, to read through it, listen to it again. and do the assignment. Okay, does a colonoscopy cleanse count? It depends on, I think, what they use for it, if they flushed it or anything. It can, and it depends on how far up in the colon then they were able to reach. Because when they do the colonoscopy, I'm not sure how far up the colon that they go, or if they just cleanse just enough to be able to do the procedure. So what you do want to consider, though, is you've got several feet of intestinal intestines, both the large colon and the small colon. The large one goes up the right side of your body, across the top, and then down up the left, across the top, and down the right. So that's several feet. And, a colonoscopy cleanse, it may not reach all the way up there. It may just do, the first few inches. Another thing you want to really consider, too, is the small intestine. There's a lot of length in that. That's where the majority of the digestive absorption process happens. And so that's where a lot of waste and buildup can occur, not just within the large intestine. So, I'd say that would be a borderline type of a cleanse. To do a more thorough, deeper, full body cleanse, and there's other protocols that you can follow. But that's, I guess, it would be a beginning point. So, any other questions or comments any of you would like to make before we sign off? Have you used any essential oils to do a cleanse, to help or be part of a cleanse? There's a lot of oils that you can use in that regard. So we can always talk more about that if you'd like. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in again today. I look forward to hearing from your comments and be watching for the day 3 activity. And we will see you in the group. Thanks so much. Yeah, the Juva cleanse. Yeah, I've done that too. That's a good, helpful thing to use. All right, so we will talk to you soon. Thanks.